Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Know the Code Show. This is episode 6. Today, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about PHP arrays first. I want to make sure that you fully understand PHP arrays. And then we're going to go into core, and we're going to take a look at the event registry system and how the priorities. So when you do an add underscore filter or add underscore action, and then you assign a priority to your callback, how's that handled? What happens in core? What's the magic there that then says, okay, if I assign mine, I want mine to be a priority of 9, and my other ones will be a priority of 15. How does that work? We're going to take a look at that. All right, so let me show you some screens, as we always do. Welcome to all of our new members. Hi. Okay, hold on one seckie. All right, here we go. Now, for our new members, so that they know, I get to the questions at the end. So just so that you're aware, you can post questions there on Crowdcast in the Q&A section there right under the video. So if you have a question, just post it there. And in the Q&A section, when I get to that, I'll go through and answer all your questions. The beauty of live. Okay, so this week, before we even get started, I want to help you understand the elementaries, some of the elementaries, so that you know in any language that you work on is your foundation. It lets you have a solid foundation. If you think of a home, before you can start building that first floor, that second floor, that third floor, if you have a gigantic mansion, you need a solid foundation first. And that's the same thing in software development, is understanding your elementaries, just like you did in grammar school. You understood, if you're taking math, you start at the beginning, and that gives you your solid foundation to build upon. So let's get started with that first. And we're going to talk about what is an array. If you go over to the PHP manual, it explains it to you. And for some of you, it might sound like Greek. So we're going to break it down so that it's easier to understand what an array is. I want you to picture in your mind your neighborhood where you live and pull that up like on Google Maps. And as you're looking at that city map and you're looking at your neighborhood where you live, the streets are labeled with a name, right? So if you live on Main Street, your street would be named Main Street. And your home that you live in, whether it's a home, an apartment building, a condo, whatever, it has an address to that. And that's how you locate your home on a map, or how you locate it. Let's say you're trying to find a business somewhere. That's how you locate that business, is by its address, right? Now, I want you to picture that same map, and this time we're going to take away all the names. All the text strings are gone. So Main Street is no longer Main Street. Instead, it has a GPS coordinate. And that is a specific pinpoint in a different labeling system, a different keyed pointer system that says this is where this home, your home, is located on the map. So you've got two different ways of looking at it. You've got a representation, which is a number per se, some sort of alpha character representation of your home. Let's say you live at an address of 101 Main Street. That is an alphanumeric representation of your home on a map. Human readable, much easier to understand, right? The GPS coordinate, though, much longer, and it's giving you a numeric value for where that home is located at. So hold that in your mind. An array is an ordered map. It says it right here, right? Okay. It has keys in it. It doesn't matter if it's an indexed array or an associative array. That was hard for me to say. Associative array. There we go. They're all the data within that array has a key, just like your home on a map. You find it by its key. Does that help you to understand? Let's give an analogy. You know I like analogies. Let's picture, this is an apartment building right here on the right. Each floor represents a floor of apartments. So let's say the first floor, all the apartments are 101, 102, 103, 104, second floor, all the way up in the apartment building. So you're on a map and you know that your buddy lives on Main Street at 1018 Main Street. Okay. And you're standing in front of the apartment building and you're saying, okay, what floor, what apartment does he live in? A multidimensional associative array, which is what you're looking at here on the left, let's say that it represents this apartment building. So I have an array. Actually, let's say it represents a bunch of buildings on Main Street. So you can see I've got the variable declared as $main_street, and it's being assigned an array. And that array has multiple levels. That's what multidimensional means, multiple levels in it of data. Just like this apartment building has multiple levels, multiple compartments, if you will. So the street number for that building, 1018, is its first key. And that's how you would differentiate this particular building from another one next to it. That would be 1020, let's say, even side of the street. The first floor would be a key of 1. It could also be floor_1. I just put 1 down, whatever. That has an array of all of its apartments then that are on this floor. So you see I've got an array within an array within an array. That's multi-dimensional. And then each of the apartments, so if I have apartment 101, 102, 103, 104, let's say within its array, it tells me who lives there. First name, last name, maybe how many people, maybe what their rent is, more information. So I can, from this associative array, pull in all of this information, multiple levels. You know, that might be a little advanced for some, but I wanted to give you a pictorial in your mind what we're talking about with arrays. The takeaway here is it's keyed. See the key? Right there. That key points to this building. If that key were 1020, it would point to the building next door. So that key is very important. Okay. Hold that in your mind. We're going to talk a lot about arrays in this particular episode. Good. I'm going to hold on to that. We may need it again. For those who haven't seen this graphic before, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up again. Right here, when you do an add_filter, you put in what the event name is, your callback, which wires up down here to your callback, your function that's going to fire and execute when this event occurs, which for terminology is an event fires. It then goes and calls each of its callbacks in order. In order. Here's the priority right here. This one's a 10. I could have said it's a 1, which means it goes first. So the lower the number, the higher the priority. All right? Good. Let's get rid of this. We're going to come back to this page, so just bear with me. All right, so in the first question today, I showed you some code. Let me pull up that code here real quick. And I'm going to uncomment it. If I can get my cursor to behave. There we go. I showed you this code, and you see I have two arrays. I have an indexed array, which an indexed array, the keys are declared for you. So when you put an element into it, you do not have to say that this is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. The key itself is already declared for you. That's an indexed array. You see there are no keys, right? You come down here to the associative array, and I've declared the keys. And I did this on purpose. There's a specific method to my madness as we go through this today. It may seem, oh, why the heck is she doing this? You'll see. I'm using Kent down here. Real quick, for those who maybe didn't see that, Kent's one of my favorite tools that I use instead of var dumping out and then having to put pre's around it or even a print r. And sometimes it gets truncated because it's too much information, mostly if you're doing SQL queries, and sometimes those are really long. It's nice to be able to use this tool. I can die and dump. I can just dump it out, and it puts it in a very nice container. And you're going to see that here momentarily. What a nice container it gives you. So if you haven't installed this yet, it just got posted yesterday in WordPress repo. So you can just type this in from plugins, and you can add it right into your project and start using it. There's a bunch of handy tools here I list out for you as well. Okay. So we're going to use that today. So if you see this command down here, which is D parentheses, and then the variable, this replaces the pre's and var dump. So I'm dumping out the data in this array's position out to the screen. DDD means I'm dumping and dying. So the program, well, not me personally, thank goodness, yeah. But the program then will stop execution. Okay, so let's take a look at what this does. And I asked you, I should get back to what the heck I asked you. The third element in both arrays, what is their keys? And when you render it out, when we do this down here, what are we going to see on the screen? What's going to get rendered out for the third element? Third element. 1, 2, 3. Indexed arrays start at position, key position 0. Associative are keyed by whatever you put the key in. So we count starting at a whole number of 1. So this is element 1, element 2, element 3, so on, so on, so on, right? Okay, so the third one, that's this one and this one. You see I put in a 2 and a 2. This down here might confuse you why I put in for this array right here, this variable, why I put a 2 there and not a string representation. That key is in a string, not an integer. So you might have been wondering why I didn't do that. We'll get to that. I can leave it that way. Let's just go ahead and leave it, see what happens. No, it doesn't work. Refresh. There we go. So what gets dumped out? The indexed array example brings out index position 2. That's the data. So I use the key and I point to the data in that array. Here's the associative array example. Index position 2. Interesting. Okay, let's go back, and I'm going to remove this string, and I'm going to put it as an integer. Oh, something neat, huh? And I'm going to refresh that. And look, same thing. It still points to that index position number 2. Okay. Why? Why? If we scroll down here, you will see something called key casts. See that right here? This is actually in PHP called type juggling. And let me explain it to you because this is an important part of PHP. Type juggling Well, first of all, PHP is a weakly typed language. And what that means is you don't have to specifically declare the data type. So when I said to my variable, I didn't have to say that this is an array. In other languages, you do have to do that. You have to say that when I declare a variable such as number of floors, let's say that's a variable, I would have to say that's an integer before I can start using it. Weakly type means I don't have to do that. I just assign something to the variable, and later on I can assign a different type to it. Maybe I want a string, maybe I want an integer. I can do whatever I want to do. I have that flexibility. PHP type juggling says that what it does, it takes the data and it will change the value, not change the value, change the type based upon its context. Let that sink in. Context. Okay. So if I read all of this gobbledygook here, all right, it's not gobbledygook. Sorry, guys who wrote the manual. It's basically telling me that if I have a key that is a string representation of an 8, PHP is going to type juggle that to be an integer of 8 when an integer is called, or if I'm comparing to another integer in context, it will change it. It knows, okay, in this context, I want a string. In that context, I want an integer. However, if I put a 0 in front of that 8, see that right here? Blow it up so you can see it. See it right there? If I put a 0 in front of that 8, so now the string is 08. That no longer is a valid decimal integer. It's a string. So PHP knows, it's smart enough to know that, okay, I don't typecast that or type juggle that. I leave that as a string. So that's what this is meaning. So when, get back out of that again, that down, and when I do this down here, as I did, I put it as an integer 2. In that context, it says a string 2 is equal to an integer 2. They're the same thing in PHP. If, let me give you another example. If I did a little bit of conditional comparing here, let's say I have, hold on a second, number of floors equals 2. And I said number of floors, if that's equal to 2, do something, right? It will change that context because it says, okay, you're now doing a math comparison. It is a true integer, even though it's wrapped in a string. I'm going to type juggle that and change it for that particular instant. Okay, it's still a string. So if I var dumped out this, it remains a string, but in this context of how I'm using it here, it type juggles it for just this particular line of code. Same thing down here. All right. I hope that makes sense. If not, put a question up there and I'll answer it. All right, let's get rid of this. All right, so we got question number 1. I think I beat it to death, didn't I? All right, let's move on to 2. In 2, you were asked, what's the order of the elements? Come back up here, silly pants. What's the order of the, right here, that this array, unordered array, right here, what order is that going to dump out when I iterate through it in this loop? The for each is a loop instruction that iterates through each of the elements in this array. I know it seems kind of silly. You probably know it right from the get-go, but there's a purpose to this, because understanding the order of how the elements appear in the array is how the WordPress event registry system works. And we're going to get to that. Okay. So Let's pull this back up again. We're going to get rid of that. We don't need it anymore. We don't need that anymore. The order that gets dumped out is the order that you see because we didn't order anything, right? We didn't sort it. We just put all the elements in there and we dumped it out to the screen. So the way that a loop instruction works for each as it's iterating through each of these is it goes one by one. It starts at the first one and it goes one, 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 and it dumps them out in order. Yes, you can change that order. You have to write code to do that, but this is the way it iterates it out. Okay. Now let's take a look at the next question. Actually, before I do that, real quick, I want to teach you a little bit about computer memory. Why not? We're learning elementaries. If we go back to our graphic and we look at this, let's picture this as the memory stack in the server or your computer sitting on, if you're on your computer doing this locally, which I hope you are. This is your memory stack. And each piece of information stored in that stack has a pointer. Think of the pointer as a key, just like with the array, it's a key. It points to the memory location within that stack. See how keys are so valuable to how we move around in memory of getting information. So if I wanted this one out of memory, then I would do $main _ street and then it by its key of 1018, and I'm going to pluck that out of memory. And that's how that works. All right, let's move on. The code challenge. All right. I asked you how to sort. We're going to get rid of the pseudocode and we're going to sort. Now, I already put it in here, so let's uncomment that. And you can see, I hope that you found it, it's K-sort because we're sorting by key. There is a sort in there, but we want it by key. Yeah? And if you looked in the PHP manual, what's it say? Sort an array by key. Oh, wow. I know, I gave that one away. It was way too easy, right? You just had to do a quick Google search and boom, there it was. Okay. So let's see if I save that and I dump it out to the screen. This is before it's sorted. You remember seeing that. It goes 10, 7, 12, 5. After it's sorted, it goes 5, 7, 10, 12. It's in order now. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's important because if I have, as I said, my callback when I register into an action or a filter, I want mine to be 9. I want it to go before all of the 10s. I had the core sorts that array and says, okay, 9 comes before 10 in the way that it's sorted, and then it will get pulled out first. And we'll look at that code here in a minute. Okay, let's move on to question 3. Question 3, I gave you some code. Let's pull that up. And I'm going to get rid of this again. We'll come down here to question 3. And basically what I'm doing is right after the loop starts, I do loop start just to give me a place to start at. I'm adding 2 hooks into the filter. So the filter that I have, the event name is title, the _ title. And then I have 2 callbacks with my namespace. So I'm going to skip over the namespace and just call this demonstrate _ callback order is the first one. The second one is demonstrate event _ registry _ priority _ ordering. So demonstrate event registry priority ordering. Okay. And you notice that the first one, demonstrate callback order, has a priority of 10. The second one, a priority of 9. Now, the order here, I want to show you that. So see that the first one, callback order, is a value of 10 for the registry, or for the priority. Sorry about that. So with these two wired up, which one's going to get registered first? Okay. What gets registered first is indicative of where you place it in your code. So PHP, the way that it evaluates all the code is it starts from the top and it works down. So it comes to this line first at line 76 that I'm on, and it executes that first. Then it goes to the next line, which is 77, and it executes that next, and so on, and so on, and so on. That's how that works. So the first one that's going to get registered will be demonstrate underscore callback underscore order. Even though it has a priority of 10 and the other one has a priority of 9, it goes by the PHP execution. So it comes down, it hits this one first, then it hits that one. Okay. Question 3.b, where does the demonstrating event registry priority ordering load into the register? In the registry. Okay. In this particular one, it's easiest if you would go into core. Let's go into core. We like reverse engineering things here on the show. So if you're not comfortable with this, oops, helps if I do it correctly. Get comfortable. It's the easiest way to start to learn how things work. All right, the one that you want is down here in includes, and there it is. All right, I'm going to get rid of this. Lower that down so you can see the screen. Okay, here we go. So I've got some code in here, and notice that I always go and put in the temporary code, right? You see that? I put it at the start and I put it at the end. That way, if I forget and I go and I do something else, I can come back to this and be able to find it just by doing a global search for temporary code. That tells me, oh, crud, I put that in there. It's just for demonstrating purposes. So let's go ahead and run this. $WP underscore filter. That is a global that holds the event registry. Cool. So that's all your filters. And notice as I go through and I look at this, these are the ones that are loaded from core. I've got WP texturize, convert underscore characters. I got trim in there. And then I have mine that I just put in, demonstrate callback order. That's in the priority of 10, and it's the last one in this list. Then I go down to 11, priority 11, and you can see there are 3 more there. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 1 in there. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Then I go down to priority of 9, and here's mine, the second one that we loaded in, demonstrating event registry priority ordering. That's the second one. Here's the function and the number of args that I specified. Okay, let's take a look at that. Here's the priority. This is the function. That's the number of args. 2. I want 2. Yeah, okay. I look at this again. You notice that it has the full namespace, full path to that function, that callback. Yeah, right here. See it? Whole thing is in there. Good. We covered that before in past episode. And we also covered accepted args in past episode. But what's important here is to look at the order. We're going to get to that. So where does demonstrating event registry priority ordering load in the registry? It's on the bottom. Notice that this is all unsorted. Okay, that starts to make sense to you. Good, so it's the last one that got loaded in before I dump this out to the screen. So when I say dump out, that's what I mean by that. Before I render anything out to the screen, which I did right here, and then died. So I did a DDD and wrapped in that variable. And I'm only looking at the underscore title in the global filter registry, the event registry. That's the one I'm after. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Good. Now, let's move on to the next one. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping around here a little bit. The next one is asking you when it goes through the for each loop and apply filters. Let's go down to apply filters, down here. Here's the for each loop that is iterating through that filter. See, here it is right here. WP underscore filter. The tag is the event name. In our case, it's the underscore title. And it pumps out what? The function and the number of args. Okay, cool. If you come up here, here's the sort. See the sort right here? Key sort. And it's sorting out by that tag, again, the event name. So before it uses it, it sorts it. Right. You're going to say, how does this work? When apply filters for the underscore title gets fired, it goes through here, it sorts it out, and then it loops through and calls each of its callbacks. And we covered that previously for 2 episodes. So let's come back up again. One of the tips that I want to give you here today, just so that you're aware, is when it sorts it, it only sorts the first level. So just the priority. Nothing in the priorities array. So if I'm looking at a level 10 priority, it has its array of all of its callbacks. This does not get sorted. Therefore, you cannot predict when your filter is going to get called, because if somebody else also has a 9 and you said, oh, I need a 9, I need an 8, whatever, you can't predict exactly when yours is going to get called if some other plugin or something in core also has a value of 9. Just keep that in mind. All right. So sometimes you have to trial and error exactly what priority you need for something to occur first or last. All right. So let's go ahead. What's going to happen if we sort? And I'm going to put that in here now. So I want to show you this is what happens when you call apply filters. This is the unsorted. This is the sorted. And notice in the sorted, 9 comes first, then 10, then 11. So when it comes to 9, it loops through, iterates through the 9 array, and it pulls it out, each one of its callbacks, right? You can skip back down here to apply, right here. The for each is going through one by one by one. That's what current does. It's giving me the current one, and it's iterating through in the priorities. That's how that works. Ta-da! You've learned it today. There you go. Okay, so let's get to the questions. Are there any questions? No questions? Oh, wow. That's amazing, guys. Okay, I guess you guys all got it. If you guys have any questions after you do this, go ahead, post them on Slack. I'll be glad to answer them. For those who didn't catch the live show, you can either come to Slack if you're a member, or you can also post a comment. Excellent. Hey, thanks for joining me here today.